Chargers fans, get ready. Because what just happened could change everything. The Los Angeles Chargers just dominated in the Hall of Fame game with a crushing 34-7 win over the Detroit Lions. It wasn't just a win. It was a statement. A message to the rest of the NFL. We're back, and we're coming for blood. Dan Campbell looked completely stunned on the sideline. Meanwhile, Jim Harbaugh, grinning like he just pulled off the heist of the year. And honestly, he might have. But before we dive into this massive win and some breaking NFL trade drama that could link directly to the Chargers, take 2 seconds. Subscribe to the channel, hit like, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss the latest Chargers updates. Let's move on to the big stuff. Now back to the action. That Hall of Fame game? It was more than just a preseason matchup. It gave us a real look at what this Chargers team is becoming, especially when it comes to depth, attitude, and identity. The defense was nasty. Defense clicked. And the whole vibe? Locked in. But just when things couldn't get any more exciting, boom, breaking news explodes all over the NFL. Micah Parsons has officially requested a trade out of Dallas. Yeah, you heard that right. One of the most explosive pass rushers in the league, possibly on the move. Now you might be asking, what's that got to do with the Chargers? Honestly, everything. Because a player like Micah doesn't hit the trade market often. And if the Chargers are serious about building a Super Bowl roster, they better be making a phone call. This isn't just news. It's an opportunity. A potential game changer. And as if that wasn't enough, hold on, there's even more good news coming out of LA. While putting this video together, another bombshell just dropped. It looks like Keenan Allen could be returning to the Chargers. Yep, our WR1 might not be going anywhere after all. We'll break that down too. So grab a drink, settle in, and stay locked in. This video's packed, and it's just getting started. As Denzel Perryman always says, stay hydrated. Let's get into it. Micah Parsons wants out of Dallas. And no, this isn't just some social media stunt or contract drama. This is real, and it's sending shockwaves through the NFL. Now, players of this level, true game changers, almost never hit the trade market. We've seen a few in the past, like when Khalil Mack got moved, but even that felt rare. What Micah brings, it's different. He's young, he's proven, and he's terrifying for quarterbacks. The Chargers need to take this seriously. Sure, we don't know exactly why Parsons wants out. Maybe it's tension with the Cowboys' front office. Maybe it's something deeper. But what matters now is that the door is open. And if there's a front office bold enough to walk through it, it should be the one in Los Angeles. Look at the reaction across the league. Cowboys fans are panicking. Teammates are changing their profile pictures to show support. NFL Twitter is on fire. Why? Because this isn't just any player. This is Micah Parsons, a pass rushing machine with over 50 sacks in just 4 seasons. Let that sink in. 13 sacks as a rookie, 13.5 the next year, then 14. And last season, 12 more. That's not just talent. That's consistency, dominance, and pure fear for any offensive line that faces him. And here's where the Chargers come in. Yes, we've had a strong pass rush for years. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Melvin Ingram, and now, rising star Tuli Tuipulotu. But think about the future. Mack is getting older. This might be his last season in powder blue. So, what's next? Micah Parsons might just be the perfect successor. Not only does he bring youth and explosiveness, but unlike a rookie, there's no guessing game. We already know what he is. A guaranteed impact player. And let's be honest, the draft is a gamble. No matter how talented a prospect looks, there's always risk. With Parsons, no risk. No waiting. Just a monster ready to go. This could be the moment the Chargers make a move that changes the next 5 to 7 years of this defense. And if they want to keep building a Super Bowl roster, this might be the boldest and smartest step to take. Let's be honest, Khalil Mack has been nothing short of incredible for the Chargers. Even now, at his age, he's still performing at a solid level. But the reality is setting in. His time in the NFL is winding down. Retirement may not be this season, but it's definitely coming soon. And that's exactly why the idea of bringing in Micah Parsons makes so much sense. Even if it's just one season with Mac still on the roster. Imagine pairing a future Hall of Famer like Mac with one of the most dominant young edge rushers in the game. That's not just insurance. That's a statement. Now, if Mac does move on after this year, we're left with some real questions. Sure, Tuli Tuipulotu is on the rise, and he's shown he can play. But without another proven name next to him, the Chargers' pass rush could take a step back from the elite standard we've had in recent years, with names like Bosa, Mack, and Ingram anchoring our attack. And that's where Parsons completely flips the script. Even if the Chargers don't land him, we're looking at next year with Tuli as the lead guy. And behind him, we still don't know what we have in Kyle Kanati or any other potential young pass rusher. The future becomes a big question mark. And unless the Chargers completely luck out in the draft, which, let's be real, is unlikely when you're picking in the 20s, you're not getting anything remotely close to Micah's level. At that point, you're taking a chance. But Micah Parsons isn't a gamble, he's a guarantee. Think about this. Adding Micah to the Chargers' defense under Jesse Minter means you're plugging a 10 to 14 sack player into a system that thrives on chaos and pressure. That's the minimum production you'd expect. With his motor, athleticism, and instincts, he could do even more. And now picture a defensive front of Parsons, Mack, and Tuli, all on the field this season. Yes, it would be one of the scariest pass rush groups the NFL has seen in years. Maybe ever. But it's not just about this season. This move sets the Chargers up long term. Parsons is only 26. Give him a solid 5 or 6 year deal and pair him with a young Tuli who's also looking at a future extension. And you've locked up the edge position for the next half-decade or more. That kind of stability, that level of production, that kind of dominance, rare. Almost impossible to find. That's why this move matters so much. It's not hype. It's not a flashy dream. It's a bold, smart step that could carry the Chargers' defense into its next great era, with no drop-off and no rebuilding phase. That's why I'm all in on this. Let's talk about the part that makes fans nervous. The cost. And look, I get it. Trading for Micah Parsons is going to be expensive. We're not talking about a small-time move here. This is a potential franchise-defining decision. But here's the truth. I don't care about the price. Not this time. Not for this player. When you're dealing with someone who might be the best pass rusher in football, in the same breath as Myles Garrett or TJ Watt, the question shouldn't be, what will it cost? It should be, how fast can we make it happen? You don't hesitate on players like Micah Parsons. If you told me it would take 2 first-round picks to land him, I'd still say yes. And think about this. The Chargers will likely be picking in the mid to late 20s. Maybe even later if things go the way we're hoping. So realistically, how likely are we to draft someone who even scratches the surface of what Micah brings? Spoiler, not likely. Trading those picks for a proven 26-year-old all-pro edge rusher? That's not overpaying, that's winning. But the trade is only half the story. Then comes the contract. Micah Parsons is going to get paid. No doubt. You're probably looking at $40 million per season, maybe more. That's elite quarterback money for a non-quarterback. It's historic, and it's going to scare a lot of teams off, but not the Chargers. Here's the wild part. Heading into 2026, the Chargers have the 3rd most cap space in the entire league, over $84 million. That's not just good. That's positioning. We've got the flexibility to make this deal work now, and the money to lock him up long term. And that gives us an edge over at least half the NFL. Teams like the Chiefs, they're buried under the cap. Even some playoff teams will struggle to fit Parsons under their payroll. Most contenders don't have this kind of breathing room. But we do. And before anyone says, well, the Raiders have the most cap room, let me stop you right there. I do not want to see Micah Parsons and Max Crosby hunting Justin Herbert in the same division. That's a nightmare. So if we're serious about contending, if we're serious about protecting our franchise quarterback and building a defense that can win in January, we need to move first. Beat the other teams to it. Because they're watching, too. This isn't just a splash move. It's a strategic play, one that secures our future, raises our ceiling, and possibly keeps one of the scariest defenders in football away from our biggest rivals. Let's be real. Only a handful of teams in the entire NFL can even dream about affording Micah Parsons. And guess what? The Chargers are one of them. I've seen the debates online, fans saying, he's too expensive. Or, let's just keep building through the draft. And hey, I get the concern. Giving up first-round picks and paying a non-quarterback $40 million a year? That's a big move. But here's the question I want you to ask. If Micah Parsons had been drafted by the Chargers, and now he was up for an extension, would you hesitate to pay him? Of course not. You'd sign that deal in a heartbeat, especially with the kind of cap space the Chargers have coming up. That's the part people forget. We're not pushing against the limit like other teams. We're built for a move like this. And as for the draft picks, look, I love the draft. Everyone does. But let's not pretend like there's a guaranteed superstar waiting in the 20s. You could throw away 2 first-rounders and still never land a player close to what Micah Parsons already is. Now here's something even more interesting. What if we don't have to trade anything? Because Micah Parsons is heading into a contract year. If Dallas refuses to trade him, if they decide to be stubborn, he could hit free agency next offseason. And at that point, the only thing standing between him and the Chargers is cash. No draft picks. No negotiations. Just a contract and a signature. And in that scenario, there's no excuse. The Chargers should be first in line. Sure, other teams like the Raiders or Titans might have money, but do they offer a real path to winning? Micah Parsons wants to compete. He wants to play meaningful football in January. And that's where LA becomes the perfect fit. Now, do I still want the Chargers to make a trade if that's the only option? Absolutely. Even 2 first-rounders and a massive deal, I'd still do it. But if things play out a little differently, if Parsons hits the open market, the Chargers could make one of the boldest, smartest free agent signings in years without losing a single draft pick. It's rare. It's wild, but it's possible. Now, let's talk about how likely it is the Chargers even go after him. And honestly, I think there's a real chance. The Chargers have shown time and time again they're willing to invest heavily in 3 positions. Quarterback Herbert's locked up. Offensive line Slater's been paid. Joe Alt was a first-rounder. And edge rusher. They've always made it a priority to keep those spots loaded. And if they keep that same mindset heading into next offseason, or even before that, don't be surprised if LA makes a serious move. I get the feeling the Chargers aren't finished making moves, especially on defense. If you look closely, you'll notice a pattern. When it comes to building in the trenches, particularly the edge position, they go all in. Just think about it. They kept Khalil Mack. They held on to Joey Bosa last year, even with all the questions surrounding his health. They signed Bud Dupree. They even used another draft pick on an edge rusher this year. That's not by accident. This new defense under Jesse Minter is built around depth at edge. Rotating powerful, fast, explosive guys off the edge. That's what keeps pressure high, quarterbacks uncomfortable, and the rest of the defense thriving. If the edge group is dominant, the linebackers, the secondary, everyone benefits. And that's why I believe the Chargers are absolutely serious when it comes to chasing a player like Micah Parsons. They've shown over and over again that this position matters to them more than most. Other spots? Yeah, they'll try to figure things out. Cornerback, wide receiver, maybe even safety. But edge? That's where they spend their money. That's where they take risks. And when a once-in-a-decade talent like Parsons becomes available, they should be first in line. Now look, we're not the only team that could make a move. The Raiders? They've got the cap space and probably better draft picks to offer. The Titans? Rookie QB contract means more flexibility. They're a real threat too. Even the Broncos, believe it or not, could get involved. They've got enough room financially to make this happen next season. But here's the thing. Micah Parsons is going to want to win. He's not just looking for a paycheck. He wants to compete for titles. And that's where the Chargers have an edge. Cap space? Check. Trade assets? Check. A roster ready to take off with a player like him? Absolutely. If Parsons has any say in where he ends up, and in this league, players often do, the Chargers become one of the most attractive destinations on the map. And let me be clear, I want him here. This isn't just some casual, what-if scenario. This isn't barbershop talk about random trade ideas. Micah Parsons to the Chargers? That's the move. He's not just a great player. He's a player who could transform the entire defense. You put him on this team, and we're suddenly talking about a Super Bowl level unit on that side of the ball. These chances don't come around often. This one? It feels real. I'm all in. All right, before we wrap things up, there's one more piece of news that's too good to skip. And this one's going to hit deep for Chargers fans. Keenan Allen might be coming home. Yeah, you heard that right. According to reports, Keenan is meeting with the Chargers, and there's mutual interest in bringing him back. After spending last season with the Bears, the door is now open for a possible reunion in Los Angeles. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. The Chargers were hoping to have Mike Williams return this season as the veteran leader in that wide receiver room. But with Mike choosing to retire, that plan fell apart. So now, who better to fill that role than a guy who knows this team inside and out? Keenan Allen spent 13 seasons here. He knows the playbook, he knows the city, and most importantly, he knows Justin Herbert. That kind of trust and chemistry, you can't fake it. You can't buy it. You build it over years, and it's already there with Keenan. Even with a crowded WR room, bringing in a true veteran makes a lot of sense. Trey Harris is developing fast. KLS has been turning heads in camp. Vlad McConey? Raw talent that could massively benefit from a mentor like Keenan. Just imagine those younger guys learning how to move, read coverages, and stay consistent from a 6-time Pro Bowler. That's huge. And from what we're hearing, Keenan hasn't exactly been knocking on other teams' doors. So if this visit goes well, and I really think it will, we might be seeing number 13 back in powder blue soon. Speaking of that number, yeah, DJ Uiagalelei is wearing it right now as the backup QB. But let's be real. If Keenan's back, that jersey number's coming home too. Now, quick shout out to the fans, especially those who showed up during the Hall of Fame game. That wasn't even the full preseason yet, and still, 1,000 Chargers fans showed up live to talk football. That's not just support, that's loyalty. Say what you want about media coverage or national attention. This fan base is real. It's strong, and it's growing. Even when the spotlight isn't on us, we show up, every time. And if Keenan Allen walks back through that door, you better believe this team, and this fan base, is going to feel a whole lot more complete. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame game. And let me tell you, this one said a lot more about the Chargers than most people realize. We didn't just win. We dominated. From the opening kickoff, it was clear the Chargers came out with purpose. The Lions fumbled the return, and we jumped on it immediately. One drive later, touchdown. Just like that, we were in control. Now sure, people will say, it's just the Hall of Fame game, or it's only backups out there. But here's what they're missing. This wasn't just a game. This was a statement. We went toe-to-toe with another NFL team's depth, and we outclassed them. Physically, strategically, consistently. The Chargers looked sharp, fast, aggressive, and most importantly, deep. That kind of depth, that's what wins games in November and December when starters are banged up. That's the foundation of a real contender. From the running game to special teams to pure effort on defense, you could feel it. This team has an identity now, a mindset. And that's something we haven't been able to say confidently in a long time. And yeah, credit where it's due. Joe Hortiz and Jim Harbaugh have clearly been cooking. You can see it in how this roster is built. Even the practice squad level talent feels elevated. We're not just filling jerseys. We're building real competition all the way down the depth chart. Let me spotlight one guy real quick, Omari Hampton. He only got a few carries, 3 to be exact, but that's all I needed to see. On a key 3rd and short, he lowered his shoulder, powered through contact, and moved the chains. That's exactly what we saw him do at UNC Charlotte, and that's why he's here. But the play that really caught my eye, a sharp inside cut, finds a crease, breaks a tackle, and rumbles for about 8 or 9 yards. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't some viral highlight, but it was tough football. It was the kind of run that wins you trust in a locker room. In that one moment, I saw the kind of power, balance, and toughness this coaching staff clearly believed in. And now? So do I. Look, this was just a Hall of Fame game. But what it revealed about this team, that runs deep. The Chargers look like a squad that's hungry, physical, and ready to fight every week, no matter who's on the field. And that should get every fan fired up. All right, I was already a big believer in Omari Hampton, but after what I saw in this game, I'm fully convinced we've got something special. That one explosive run showed me everything. Vision, balance, strength, like I could almost see the future right there. But hey, rookies will be rookies, right? A few plays later, we saw a classic welcome to the NFL moment. Hampton bounced to the outside and showed off his burst, trying to beat the defense to the edge. He dodged a few defenders, and for a second, it looked like he was gone. One man left to beat. But instead of cutting upfield, he tried to do a bit too much, danced inside, then back outside, and it cost him. Tackled right at the line. No first down. Still, even in that moment, the potential was clear. With more reps and a little polish, that's a touchdown next time. You can see all the traits: speed, agility, confidence. And the best part? We've only seen 3 carries from him. Just imagine what's coming next. Now, let's talk about another name that popped: Caden Lambert-Smith, or just KLS. What a debut. This kid stepped onto the field and made noise immediately. He caught a beautiful deep ball from Trey Lance, stayed in bounds, clean hands, broke loose from 2 defenders. That wasn't just a nice catch. It was a grown man play. He didn't get a ton of targets, maybe 2 or 3 catches in total, but every single one mattered. Yards after the catch, separation, control. This is a receiver with real upside. You can already imagine the coaches drawing up plays specifically for him. And with someone like Justin Herbert throwing the ball, that deep threat combo could be dangerous real fast. And speaking of quarterbacks, Trey Lance had himself a solid day too. 3 touchdowns, no picks. He didn't run much, but stayed poised in the pocket, made smart throws, looked confident. Right now, Taylor Heinicke probably still holds that QB2 spot. But Lance showed enough to keep the conversation going, especially with how important that third quarterback role is becoming in today's NFL. One last guy I have to shout out: Nico Reed. This quarterback out of Oregon made some serious noise. A few pass breakups, and that interception nearly took it all the way back for 6. He was locked in, quick reactions, sharp instincts, great feel for the field. We've been hearing about him in camp, and now we're seeing it in real game action. Keep an eye on him. Nico might be one of those surprise names who not only makes the roster, but earns snaps. Every one of these guys brought something exciting to the table, and if this is just the beginning, then the future of the Chargers looks electric. One thing's for sure, the Chargers defense came out hungry. Multiple interceptions, including big plays from Miles Purchase and Tony Jefferson. These guys weren't just in the right place at the right time. They owned those moments. Add in a fumble recovery and some standout tackles from R.J. Mickens at safety, and you've got a secondary that looked deep, sharp, and honestly, better than expected. Another surprise? Niheim Hines. Coming back to the NFL after some time away, no one really knew what to expect. But Hines didn't just show up, he flashed. He looked electric on punt and kick returns, made sharp cuts, stayed balanced, and even chipped in with a few solid blocks and receptions. He might have come in as just competition, but he made a serious case for more. Whether it's a spot on the practice squad or a backup role elsewhere, he turned heads. Now, let's talk about the name that stood out the most in the Chargers' backfield: Kamani Vidal. From the moment he touched the ball, you could feel it. This guy's different. 2 touchdowns. Smooth cuts. Power through contact. Reliable in both the run and pass game. This is what everyone imagined when he was drafted: a real all-purpose back who can do it all. And tonight, he looked like that guy. But here's the twist. It's not just Vidal. The whole RB room is suddenly looking stacked. Hassan Haskins ran with confidence. Omari Hampton showed flashes of explosiveness. Niheim Hines brought that veteran polish. Just about everyone made a case. Except Rocket Sanders, who may be dealing with an injury. The Chargers dominated the run game, Plain and simple. And now, with so many guys performing well, the coaching staff has a real challenge ahead. Who makes the final cut? Because this group is deep. One last note before we wrap. We need to talk about Zion Johnson. There were some rough moments, especially at center, the botched snap, some communication issues, things that just can't happen. But digging into the tape, there were also bright spots. When he got to that second level and locked in, you could see what makes him valuable. There's room to grow, but the talent is there. And that's the story of this game in a nutshell. Talent everywhere, energy all over the field, and a Chargers team that might be a lot more dangerous than people realize. Let's be honest, Zion Johnson at center still feels like a real possibility. But last night wasn't exactly a smooth start. There were some strong moments in his play, especially when he got out in space or locked into his blocks. But the bad snaps and miscommunication stood out more than anything else. If he's going to stay in the center conversation, he's got to clean that up fast. Another guy Chargers fans were hoping to see more from, Trey Harris. He was targeted once or twice, but the connection just wasn't there. Some of that was on the throws, a little too far, a little off, but overall, it felt like we didn't get to see what Trey can really do. His physicality, his route running, we're still waiting to see that come to life on the field. Meanwhile, it was Kendra Lambert-Smith who completely stole the spotlight at wide receiver. The moment was his, and he made it count. But don't count Harris out just yet. There's still time for him to bounce back and show us something in the next couple games. Now, there's one more player I've got to bring up, and this one's a little tough. Kyle Kennard. Honestly, it was hard to find much on him from the game, even a clear photo. That alone tells a bit of the story. He was out there, but it didn't feel like he made much of an impact. A couple of tackles maybe, but overall, he just didn't pop. What stood out more was how outmatched he looked, whether it was strength, size, or speed. He seemed to be getting pushed around a bit by the Lions' offensive line, and that's concerning when you're trying to earn your spot in a deep defensive rotation. Of course, it's still early. It's just preseason, but you'd like to see more urgency, more physicality, something that shows he's ready to fight for a spot. Right now, it feels like there's still a gap to close. Big picture though, the depth on this team is looking strong. Yes, there are a few names we're waiting on. Yes, there are still questions to answer. But after a game like this, you can feel it. The Chargers are building something. The back end of the roster, better than most people expected. The Hall of Fame game wasn't just a fun watch, it was a statement. The talent, the energy, the young guys stepping up, all signs point to this team trending upward. We're only just getting started.